When I said that No Man's Sky was nothing terribly special, a lot of people started to ask me what other examples I could show of games that were like No Man's Sky. So here's a couple of them. They're all available on Steam. I'm restricting myself specifically to games that feel like No Man's Sky. So no games with blocks like Minecraft, no 2D games, just games that feel like No Man's Sky and are on Steam. Feel free to add more down below if you'd like. This is Rodina. Rodina doesn't have a whole lot in common with No Man's Sky, but it has one big thing, and that is the interplanetary travel system. Just like No Man's Sky, it has a 3-tiered system, and I know that's not too impressive, but when you hit a planetary atmosphere, you decelerate with a feel that's so similar that I thought No Man's Sky was literally doing an homage. That's how similar they are. Now, Rodina isn't the same kind of game as No Man's Sky. The planets are barren, it's very arcade action-y, and you know, it has a lot less to do. But it does have some things that No Man's Sky doesn't do. You can customize your ship. Your ship flies really well. You can strafe and go up and down. In addition, when you hit that planetary atmosphere and you decelerate in that blaze of fire, this is a skill challenge in Rodina, because in order to land safely, you have to survive re-entry, and it's a really interesting challenge. Unfortunately, I can't show you that because I don't have the first planet. I haven't found the coordinates for it yet, and it doesn't show up until you do. The landing system that I see in No Man's Sky feels exactly like what you would do if you'd played Rodina. You know why? Because let me show you the landing system in Rodina. Planet Explorers, a slowly aging project that's been in early access hell for at least a year now. This is a single-player space-age RPG. It has the same kind of voxel system, plant mining, and monsters as No Man's Sky. It's not nearly as good as No Man's Sky. It also doesn't feature any interplanetary travel, but it's interesting to see where this sort of thing comes from. The same idea that was used here was refined and put in No Man's Sky and made much, much better. That said, this game is coming out of its hell, out of its long sleep, so maybe it'll improve. Also, it features construction, so I can't show you any of that because they just released an update, and that wiped my save. So I don't have any of the gear. I have literally nothing, and I don't feel like going through the 2-hour tutorial to show off the fact that these voxels can be mined. They can be. You'll have to take my word for it. This is Terra Tech. Terra Tech really isn't an adventure survival game, but it has a lot of the same technologies in it that went into No Man's Sky. Ugh. In Terra Tech, you play a car, but it's got the exact same voxel engine and mining for trees and rocks and stuff. I'm not going to go into great detail with Terra Tech because it's one of those vehicle building games, you know the ones, so it doesn't have a lot to do with No Man's Sky. This is Imperium, Galactic Survival. You can think of it as halfway between Planet Explorers and No Man's Sky. It's got the exact same voxel engine, or at least the exact same voxel algorithm, as well as the same idea of, you know, mining plants and rocks and eating wild animals, shooting them with your gun and that sort of thing. Unlike No Man's Sky, the scope isn't quite as large. You can't travel the whole galaxy as far as I know. Although I have to admit I haven't played it in like a year, and it may be that they've added all sorts of interplanetary travel. I don't know. I never got off the planet very far in the very first time I played it, because I was focused on the other thing it does, which is construction. Unlike No Man's Sky, this game is focused on letting you build your bases, your ships, whatever you'd like. So one of the more interesting things about it is that terrain really does matter. For example, there are things that you can only build on water. So with my first base, I built right here in this lake. I built this massive base full of glass and landing pads and all sorts of cool stuff. Unfortunately, it's been about a year since I played, and it looks like a more recent update has nixed all my saves, and I can't show you any of that. Still, If you wanted to, you could give this game a shot. It was fun for a couple of hours, you know. I played it for maybe 20 hours the first time I tried it, and built some stuff. It was great fun. Sort of like Space Engineers if it had an actual reasonable survival mode. This is Farsky. I've played through it a couple of times. It's not an endless game, but it's just the right size to have some fun with. It doesn't feature voxel terrain, but it does feature the same kind of plant and animal mining that you do in so many of these kinds of survival games. It also features a lot of exploration. There are things like downed ships and all sorts of fun stuff. My favorite part of Farsky is these bases, though. And why are they my favorite part? Well, first off, you can build them yourself. You can build your own bases, and there's a lot of things you can do with them. It's not a deep system in terms of having 10,000 things you can put in the base, but it's a lot of fun to be able to build your own base. More importantly, when they're damaged, these bases flood. And then you have to struggle to figure out how to unflood them. And that's a really compelling challenge. So, I don't have a lot to say about this game. It's a nice, mid-sized survival game. The atmosphere is really great. The sense of progression is really good. I like it. And I think that it has a lot of things in common with No Man's Sky in terms of how it feels. And its name, for that matter. Oh no, sharks! I better get back inside before he comes back around. Currently my favorite of the genre, this is Subnautica. Subnautica feels a lot like No Man's Sky, only underwater. It has voxel terrain, plants and animals, you mine things in the same way, it feels the same, and it's even got the same sort of deformation system, so that you can dig through terrain like this. So it can be a lot of fun to play. More than No Man's Sky, however, it allows you to build vast underwater bases and huge vehicles for yourself. So it's sort of like No Man's Sky with less planets and more construction. The bases that you can build in this game are truly beautiful, and if you haven't played Subnautica, I recommend either trying it or at least searching YouTube for a Let's Play of it. It is well worth the $20 that you'll spend. I would recommend this over almost any other survival game I can think of. It's just my favorite. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of games that feel like No Man's Sky and are on Steam right now. There are lots and lots of these futuristic 3D survival games on Steam, but most of them are pretty bad. These are ones I don't mind playing. Feel free to talk more about it below. I'd love to hear what you guys like.